Hi guys, welcome back. Today we're going to be looking at a nice and easy cha sequence. Everyone and anyone can do this. We're going to go right from the basics. We've got basics, New Yorks and a spot turn to finish off. It'll all loop back together and it's so small you can do it in your living room. Okay, so let's take a look at what we're going to be doing today. We've got the moves basics for our cha-cha, a move called New Yorks, and we're going to finish it off with a turn to get us back where we started. Looks a little bit like this. Into our New Yorks. And a turn to get us back to the beginning again. Now the first thing we need to talk about when we're thinking of cha-cha, rumba or any of the other Cuban dances is they do step on two. So if we're doing this properly, we need to rock on one to burn that beat and then step on the second one. We don't ever have to do that again unless we have to stop and restart because it's then inherent in the next figures. But let's have a look at how that works. We count ourselves in 5, 6, 7, 8. On the 1, we're going to shift our weight across. Depending on whether you're boy or girl, this will be the left or right foot as appropriate. But we're going to step on 2. And then we're going to follow the same pattern pretty much for all of these figures that we'll be doing. After the step on 2, we're going to change our minds and rock back onto the other foot on 3. And then we're going to chasse to the side for our 4 and 1. And then repeat. We're now going to have a look at how that applies to the basic steps, and you'll see that you only have to rock in the once. If I was to count us through 5, 6, 7, 8, I would rock on 1, step, rock, cha-cha-cha, or 2, 3, 4 and 1, 2, 3, 4 and 1. Back, rock, 4 and 1, forward, rock, 4 and 1. The man's and ladies' steps for these basic movements are exactly the same. However, the ladies are stepping backwards when the men step forward and vice versa. Now, gents, you're going to start with your weight on your left, ready to rock over to your right and use your left again. Ladies, the opposite. You're going to have your weight on your right, ready to rock onto your left and use your right again. And this is consistent with a lot of dance styles. So, if we're here together, ready to rock and roll, and we count in 5, 6, 7, 8, we rock over on 1. I'm stepping forward on my left, Lindsay's stepping backwards on her right on 2. We're going to change our minds, rock back onto the other foot on 3, and take that chasse 4 and 1. Now you'll notice here on this step, the 1, this is equivalent to our rock step that we started with, so there's no additional rock. We're just going to step straight into the next basic figure, but now we've changed roles. Lindsay's coming forward on her left as I'm going back on my right for a 2, 3, 4 and 1. 5, 6, 7 and 1. 2, 3, 4 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 and 1. Now, cha-cha can get quite fast, and because there's a lot of stepping and changing our mind, we want to make sure that we don't overcommit our steps. You'll notice that Lindsay and I, when we take our steps, we're pointing the toe down. If you don't want to get into that just yet, that's fine. We can save that for some of the more advanced figures. But what we want to make sure we don't do is go all the way over and rock all the way back, because you'll find when you get to the faster tempos, you won't be able to do it in the time available. So nice short steps. After we rock over, we're just going to take a small step. A good guide is if you can pinch your knees together, then your step isn't too big. We're going to rock back so that we're nice and stable, 4 and 1. Next up, we're going to transition our basic movements into what we call a New York. Now, the timing for the New York, the base principle of it, is exactly the same as our basics. We're going to take a step, change our mind, and take a 4 and 1 for our cha-cha-cha. It's just where that step and that rock is happening. If we do it towards the camera, you'll notice that we get to this position. We've actually opened our position, and we'll talk about that in a moment. But we're taking our rear foot, whichever that one will be, and we're going to step forward. And that's our step. Now we're going to change our mind, we're going to rock backwards, and now we're going to face each other again for a 4 and 1. So let's take a closer look at the footwork for that New York. Here we have ourselves at the end of that last cha-cha-cha, the last 4 and 1. We're going to take this following step, this rear step, through for a walk forwards. And we're going to change our mind and rock back. And now face each other again with a 4 and 1. And we're going to repeat, but in the other direction, 2, rocking back 3, 4 and 1. 2, 3, 4 and 1. 2, 3, 4 and 1. One of the things that you've no doubt spotted about the New Yorks is that they are in a different hold, and we are changing from a left to right to a right to left grip each time we do them. This is very important as we can't do the New York step with the same grip at the closed hold that we started in, so we have to transition between them. So we're going to step through what we have so far with the basic movements and now talk about the transition from our closed position from our basics into our open position for our New Yorks. So if we take up our position that we've been practicing, we have our rock in on 1, we have 2, 3, 4 and 1, 2, 3, 4 and 1, 2, 3, 4 and 1. When we get to this last 2, rock 3, on the 4 and 1 on our cha-cha-cha, I'm going to release hold from Lindsay. This is a very big indication that something different is happening. As we take our 4 and 1 cha-cha-cha, we're going to start to open up. And now you can see we're starting to face you, the camera. Okay, we're not facing each other nose to nose anymore. And this hand is starting to drop down. And this is how we get into our open position, ready to walk through. And now we're both stepping forward with a step to the camera for the first step of our New York, rocking back and a 4 and 1. Okay, so we've had a look at our New Yorks, we've had a look at their footwork, and we've had a look at the transition into them from the basic hold. But how about transitioning between the New Yorks themselves? Well, that's all in the magic of the hands, and it's all on the 4 and 1 between the two. So if Lindsay and I have got to this position, we're ready to take our New York 2, 3. You'll notice I'm offering this hand 4 and 1, and now I'm letting go of this other hand to repeat 2, 3, 4 and 1. 2, 3, 4 and 1. Alrighty, now we're going to put together what we've got before we add on the final turn. Here we take our starting position, we're going to rock over 5, 6, 7, 8, we rock over 1, 2, 3, 4 and 1. We're into our basics. We're going to do 2 of these forwards and backwards. On the last one, we're going to break into our New York, 4 and 1. We're going to do 2 of these. We're going to do 3 of these. And after 3 on this position, we're going to lead the lady into a turn and come back to our starting position. So far our pattern has had 2 basic movements, 3 New Yorks, and we're going to lead the lady into a turn after that. Now, as you get more experience with this, you can add more basics before you do the New Yorks, and you can add more New Yorks or fewer New Yorks before you lead the turn. So, how do we transition from the New York into the turn? How does the lady pick up that lead, and how can we do it without giving her the wink and the nudge and say, we've got a turn now? The difference is all in the hands. If I'm doing a New York, and let's say we're New Yorking towards you, which is the same way we're going to be turning, if I do a New York, I'm going to hold my hand back a little bit, particularly in the early days before we get into any flash sort of styling. And that's a good marker so that the lady knows that we're going to most likely come backwards this way. If I'm going to progress her into a turn, that's the first thing that we want to change as I step in. This first step is exactly the same, but I'm going to make it very clear that we're going to continue on this way. Now, once we get to here, there's really nowhere we can go but continue to turn round. And we've now completed the turn. So let's take a closer look at that footwork for the spot turn that we're performing. This is the same for the man or the lady, and it can be turned in either direction. What we're going to do is take that trailing foot and we're going to cross it over that leading foot, turning about a quarter and putting all of our weight on it. Now here's the magic. We're going to rock back onto that foot that we were using, but we're going to keep turning a half as we go. I'm now looking in the other direction, and over those 2 steps I've taken 3/4 of a turn, and I'm going to finish it off with a 4 and 1. 2, 3, 4 and 1, 2, 3, 4 and 1. The last thing we need to do, of course, is get back into a closed position and repeat the sequence. So at the end of our spot turn, we've completely let go, turned our backs on each other, and here we have no hands. So over that last 4 and 1, we need to offer the hand to the lady and come back into this closed position. And if we've done it right and on the correct foot, gents, you'll be ready to go forward on the left. Ladies, you'll be ready to go back on the right to start again. So that's our mini sequence of basics, New Yorks and a spot turn to return us back to the beginning. Let's have a look at it in practice. Here we are. 5, 6, 7 and rock. 2, 3, 4 and 1, 2, 3, 4 and 1, 2, 3, 4 and 1, 2, 3 into New York. 2, 3, 4 and 1, 2, 3, 4 and 1, 2, 3, 4 and 1, spot, turn, 4 and 1. Alrighty guys and girls, well, we hope that you enjoyed this little chart video. We hope that wherever you are and how much ever space you have, you can pump out those moves. Stay tuned for more basic figures, and of course, if you do want to upskill and get more advanced figures, do please consider either the silver or the gold tiers, where you will get all of these videos plus more. Till we catch you again, see you then, keep dancing.